Joel was able to do it. Thank you, Joel.
You're welcome. Hey, Azam.
Oh, okay. Okay, so Joel started the recording. So we are we have a few things on our agenda today, but we really thought we need to purpose this to focus on the book of Odyssey. We have a chapter about phenotypes, and we had a little bit confusion of how this is going to be led, but now the clock is ticking, and we have to, as we thought, as a working group, we can deliver this chapter. And we made little progress on discussions. We also have people who are not typically participating on the working group, who are going to be contributors on this chapter, particularly folks from Darwin, who also made progress in applying the kind of Odyssey way of phenotyping into their Darwin studies. That it's going to be very important to include in the book and summarize. So I don't know. I don't know if any of you is interested in actually in the contribution. I know Joel is writing already a chapter on phenotyping, but maybe it's going to be in a different section of the book, but it doesn't matter. So we're going to just, we have an agenda item to sort out the evaluation and development of phenotypes and how it's going to be represented in the book. Doesn't matter, but we need to kind of agree so we make sure all the content that we are delivering flows and reads well and is covered in the book. So that's one main agenda item. And I think most of the time of the meeting today, we're going to go to the book of Odyssey. But before we go there, and I know we have one request about the existing phenotype. Let me just open my screen on that. Yeah, I have 10 minutes that are saved for Andrew. I don't know if Andrew's on the call already, to talk about their phenotype. They made updates, so we'll talk about certain phenotype once Andrew's on the call. Any other agenda item that people want us to cover before we go and discuss Book of Odyssey? Okay. Hearing nothing. Anybody who's new, first time joining the call and would like to introduce themselves? Okay. Quiet group today. Okay. Let me share my screen. Is there anybody who has not been part of the Book of Odyssey discussion that would like to actually be part of that or contribute to the book that was not part of our discussion from before? I see a few people here, but I don't know. Would you like to be part of that discussion, or would you just like to listen? I just don't want to, waste people's time if that's not something they're interested in. Or you just like to listen? Okay. Okay. Guess Joel and I will be the most speakers today, I guess. Okay. So here's the chapter. And the way we have, I personally and Gautam, and we had like a little meeting before. That means it's David here. No, he's not here. David also contributed to that, and Albert from Darwin. So we have a chapter in the existing. We have the old chapter on cohort building. I guess it was what was labeled from the existing book, and that really talk about the tooling we have in Odyssey for phenotype for cohort building, which of course is part of the phenotyping and would remain too. So the way we thought about this is we're going to have an introduction, which really talk about the high-level process of how we think about phenotype and development as a iterative process. And that's something we have been talking about many times. That's what we implemented in Phenotype February over the last 3 years. So it's really high level. It's like that diagram of phenotype development and evaluation, and how all our tools sits within that kind of framework of starting with the clinical idea and outputting a basically JSON expression that runs on a study with some understanding of its validity. That's just like super high level of what the process, and that we thought we'll introduce it in the introduction. We'll of course in that introduction also talk about the cohort, what is a phenotype, and how we're referring to that object as a cohort, and what is a cohort, and how it sits within the whole analytics story, because this sits under the chapter of analytics. So the relation, like basically what is the chapter is about and how it relates into this analytics flow of the book, and then what is our high-level process, what's its inputs and what's its outputs, and there we're going to discuss some terminology. So that's the introduction. Then we're going to talk into the actual mechanics of phenotype development, and that is where we have a little bit of confusion. But we thought, like, if we have a section that calls phenotype development, and really it flows similar to the flow of the process of what phenotype development and evaluation is, with like, here's an input and here's an output. So it first talks about the input in the process, which is basically the clinical description and the literature review. And here we can talk about our best practices for how we create a clinical description and how we use it as a reference. And then the literature review and how we're trying to do some automation in terms of both these two, but that's not the focus. The focus is the idea of having two inputs, and then the way we're thinking of every section is we talk about the idea and the purpose of the idea, and then show some examples from prior work, mainly published work from our working group or Phenotype February. So we show like what is a clinical description and how one can generate it and give examples of our current tooling for that. Then we're going to talk about building concepts. And here we're going to talk, there's a lot of new innovation here, but we're talking about current practices. So we're going to talk about the idea of data-driven building concepts, which is really currently relying on our tooling that is built in Atlas, and it also utilize Phoebe. So we're going to talk about the process of starting with a string, having a clinical description, and how we use our current idea of finding the best terms and finding the best concepts, what currently exists in Atlas in terms of like search and Phoebe. And of course, relying also on the literature review and what it produces, and relying on making these choices also depending on the clinical description. And again, we're going to give an example from Phenotype February or any of our existing published work. Then we're going to talk about the next step, which is building the logic. And we're talking about conceptually that when we build the logic, we answer those 4 questions. What's the index event? What are the inclusion criteria? If the event exists, how long does it exist? And what is the exit strategy? And we're talking about how we answer this question and how we utilize Atlas to build that logic answering those 4 questions. So again, this is more of the mechanics, but conceptually, what is a logic? How is it utilized, the concepts that are built, and how are the 4 questions are answered in Atlas? Then is the confusion, and we're thinking of going after that. We go to a section that is labeled data-driven approach for cohort diagnostic and clinical review, and this is this is a step of a process that is a little bit confusing conceptually, because is that evaluation or is that development? And currently we're thinking of this as an iterative process. So the step of cohort diagnostics is more of a it's an evaluation, but it's not a final evaluation. It's a process in the development where you develop, where evaluation is part of the process. So we talk here about mainly cohort diagnostics, but we also talk about something that we haven't done so much in Phenotype February and our published work, but Darwin does a lot, which is the clinical review of the definition as part of its development. So as in the actual process in Darwin, they have a a way that which every code gets critiqued by a clinician, and they do this. They do the step in cohort diagnostics. So they select their code similar to the way we do, but then when they do their evaluation, or when they do their cohort diagnostic step, there is a more elaborative code selection process that includes a physician selecting or unselecting and documenting the choices. So that is part will also be integrated here. Then after that, we have the phenotype development. And I'm sorry, we had the outlines, but it got lost between the many people who were working on this. So we had the phenotype development, evaluation. And here, we're talking about that final evaluation piece and writing, and basically what can we learn from cohort diagnostic, but basically more of the insights that one can gain after you find your definition, you think you're fine with it, and now you have some insights that you gain by looking into the large scale characterization of the patients who made the definition. And that's more of like what insights you can gain and how you can document them in some evaluation documentation. And then here we also talk about fee evaluated. And then we have other tools like Keeper. Basically we said like measurement error, quantification. And here we talk more about fee evaluated and Keeper. So this is more of it's not about building anymore. It's for a given definition that you build through a process, or maybe you brought out of your literature review. How do you understand the measurement error and how you kind of have this like validity to your work? And that required some quantification, which our way of doing that is fee evaluated, but we also have like other ways like and stuff. This section, this particular part, can go out of this chapter and be part of another chapter, which is in the book is clinical, they're calling it quality, but it's like the validation of the work, or the how do we make sure that there is validity in the observational science we do. And that covers data quality, or fitness, or data fitness for use. It also covers all the cohort method diagnostics and study diagnostics, and it could actually include phenotype or cohorts validity and basically measurement error. And that's what Joel really is leading for the most part, because it's evaluating. So let me stop here. I know, Joel, you already wrote your chapter, so tell me how you feel about the flow.
Yeah, I'm just concerned that this is going to be a big chapter, because phenotype development, if you're going to go through the whole process of phenotype development, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, the data-driven approach we develop. That's a lot, right?
So that's why it could be just the chapter is basically could be that's just that, but we can't we have to include the cohort diagnostic component, because
cohort, so cohort diagnostics, more the qualitative evaluation of it, I can see going through there. But even then, cohort diagnostics, it's a lot too.
Yeah, but remember, this is not going to be all the weeds, because there's a paper on this, so we're not going to rewrite the paper.
Right.
There's a paper on the process from Darwin, so we're not going to rewrite the paper. It's really just like talking about conceptually what it is, and then I was thinking of like going through an example. It's the older book, the existing book has this whole chapter more of a, imagine that you are somebody who just joined the community and want to be able to use Atlas. That was your chapter for it.
Yeah.
So it's more of the mechanics, which could also be the same, just putting the mechanics in a process of like. Yeah, the only additional thing that we didn't have in the older book is the idea of clinical description and literature review and how you could do that.
Yeah.
Which that's not long. Like it conceptually, it's a simple step, but we just, it's very much writing the process of phenotype February from like input output into like a chapter in a book. That's it. That's how we're thinking about it. But I can see how I can see how the evaluation and the measurement error quantification as a validity can be completely out and can be part of the quality chapter.
I guess you could reference it and say, just give a light idea of it and say this is going to be discussed in chapter 16 or something. So what's the thought? Are you going to have a separate chapter on cohort diagnostics?
Here, not chapters. It's like this whole thing
I understand that's going to be at least referenced here, but we're not going to do a chapter on cohort diagnostics?
No. It will be under this. So I'm thinking of cohort diagnostics as part of the development.
A lot.
I mean, this is where the confusion is. The confusion is cohort diagnostic part of the validity, or is it part of the development? I think of cohort diagnostic as part of the development.
I understand. I agree with you, and I think that this, to give a sort of emphasize in this chapter the phenotype development process. But I'm afraid that that it's if we get. I think that I don't know. I thought there was the decision. I thought it would be a good idea to have a chapter on cohort diagnostics. It's big, and it's important.
It's gonna be here. So
that's what I'm saying. To embed the phenotype development process. I know you wrote it in the paper, but I mean this is a book. I mean you can reference the paper, but you're really. I mean people buy the book and they want to learn the process. They could have looked at your paper otherwise. So, I think you should have to go into pretty good detail on the phenotype development process. Almost, it's like, sort of expounding on your paper and maybe adding some stuff that couldn't be included in the paper because the paper is limited. I don't know. I mean, that's my idea. I mean, the phenotype development process is a big deal. And I think it has to be treated like a big deal.
So are you suggesting? So we're gonna have this whole chapter.
Yeah.
That is separate from the quality. So we can do in that chapter we can have a process. We have an introduction. We have the development, and here we talk about the mechanics of the input to the process, the how do you build a concept set, and then how do you build the logic in Atlas. If we could separate this and say phenotype diagnostics.
Wait.
And that's like.
What did you what was D before you make that change?
It was cohort diagnostics. It was just part of the development. It's just like how
data-driven approach for cohort diagnostics and clinical review.
Because here we use cohort diagnostics. Yeah.
Remember our future state though. We want to get rapid feedback as the cohorts are built on because it's a data-driven approach. So by separating them into independent buckets, we do disservice to that future idea. We're not there yet. Currently building a cohort and then packaging it into cohort diagnostics of evaluator and getting results takes hours and days, a lot of effort. But our future state is you build something, immediately you get a response, and then you get feedback.
Yeah, that's not the end.
So we don't want to separate too much. They're thereby doing disservice to the future idea that we have already subscribed to.
Yeah, I.
Wait, what? Yeah, I'm sorry. The future idea is sort of like once. What is the future idea? What is the future idea?
The future idea is the rapid rapid data-driven feedback. So as soon as you start a concept set, you get the concept set recommender working for you. As soon as you build a cohort, you start getting feedback about the number of people, attrition, and the characteristics.
But that's not going to be in this book, so
it's not. But yes, it's not. That my point was, we subscribe to that idea by separating these ideas into chapters that are distinct. We may do disservice to that future idea. That's all.
Future idea is a future idea. I mean, if somebody buys this book or has this book, and some grad student or something picks this up and wants to do phenotype development, they need the full bore thing on phenotype development. And the future idea is nice, but I mean, you want to go through those steps at least A through C. Yeah, I mean, this is where it gets. I mean, this is where it gets a little sticky, because I think the cohort diagnostics needs it, because it's so big and it's so complicated, so complex, really needs a chapter by itself.
By chapter, do you mean
a separate chapter? I thought we were going to do a chapter on cohort diagnostics. It's a big
completely chapter, like under.
Well,
yeah. So I don't think we have that many chapters in the entire book. Phenotypings, you had only one chapter called Cohort.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I guess you could build it into here. I mean, you have cohort diagnostics in here.
Yeah, this is how I'm thinking about it. Have cohort diagnostics in here, and then have keeper and p-evaluator and the idea of measurement error in the quality section.
Yeah, because that can sort of be a standalone. You can reference a later chapter for keeper and p-evaluator.
Yeah. I'm imagining this way.
Maybe we can get away with it. Maybe
I'm
we can get away
imagining this way. You read about how you build a concept set, how you use Atlas to build a cohort, and then how you iterate through this, but without using real data from patients. The idea of cohort diagnostics, and then you end up with a cohort that you think that's the best you can do.
Right.
But then that's fine. But how valid is that? How is your best valid? Then that comes to the quality, and that refers to the.
Okay. I mean, that's probably that could work. I mean, cohort diagnostics is big, but you could use. I mean, you do have a paper on it, and you could just bring.
This is going to be half. Like, the diagnostics will technically be half of the development.
Yeah. All right. I'm just. I guess the development is really not that long-winded. I mean, it's an important process, but it's. Do you think that A, B, and C is not that long to write?
So that's how we did all our tutorials, Joel. Remember, so if I have to say how we would present them, it usually used to be like a 2-hour kind of presentation.
Yeah, I mean, but so if you think that the phenotype development process that was developed, A, B, and C essentially, well, with diagnostics in there, isn't that, I mean, we're not talking 50 pages, we're talking 15, 20 pages or less. Then you put in the cohort development, the cohort diagnostic stuff in there, bring it up to 20, 25 pages, and that's the chapter. All right, that's probably the worst.
I think too, that I totally feel what you're saying about wanting to have a lot of information in there for a student to pick up on it, or a new investigator. But the cool thing is, because you publish so much and there's a lot of tutorials, having the chapter have links out to that material, especially if you can ensure that the material is in some kind of persistent location, then that's going to be a strength as well, because someone might come into this community looking at the book and then say, oh gosh, there's all this literature out there I wasn't aware about. So I think it's a nice balance without having to bloat the chapters and everything.
Yeah, and you put the references in there, so it's easy. They're easy to find, and they're open source, so that's okay. Yeah,
but I'm not sure that everything in the OHDSI community is right now organized or persistent in terms of the references that we're going to point out to. So that needs to be something that's double checked, because I know myself sometimes, even as I'm looking up stuff, there's like now 10, 11 years of content spread
Yeah.
across a lot of different locations. And sometimes I'm getting conflicting things because it's evolved over time. So we got to watch for that.
Yeah, I agree with you. When I hear the 30-page, Joel, I think it's still very long. I think the intent of the
Yeah, and
book,
maybe it's not going to be that long. I mean,
Yeah,
I don't know. I know for Evaluator, mine is like 20 pages,
oh wow,
but it has a lot of figures in it. I have a lot of screenshots and things like that.
Joel, did you go through an example, or did you? How did you? Is it one?
It's pretty
one
much
example.
going through an example.
Was it one example, or did you do a lot?
One, yeah. In this case, it's
Okay.
one. Yeah.
Wow, and it took 30 pages.
Well, last time I'm probably not expanding it too much. Let me just see what the. I mean, this is Word pages. I'm not sure what it came to. It's
So content-wise,
20 pages, yeah.
And
But that
content-wise,
includes the non the traditional validation and chart review section that was written by other folks. The
Got it.
Evaluator is about half.
Okay. And so you repeated content that is actually published. Like you repeated, like
Yeah.
in terms of, okay.
Yeah.
So do you think it's okay if we borrow from like I was thinking, like, is it okay if we repeated some stuff like in cohort diagnostic paper, we have that outline, that tool, like that checklist of like what is you looking at in cohort diagnostic?
Yeah.
That we publish that. Like, is it okay if we put it in the book again?
Oh yeah. You just reference it.
No, I think she's saying copy paste.
No, it's a table,
Yeah.
right?
I mean, you can do it. Yeah, that's legitimate as long as you reference where you got it from.
No. Like, is it? Well, I think the question can be reframed as also, it's like one of the editors, Christian, said we need to focus on ideas or principles that won't become obsolete in the next 5 years. So do we, by putting all those details make it obsolete.
Which detail? The way that cohort diagnostics works, the outline that she was just mentioning.
I don't know. It's like because concepts stay, implementations evolve. The book should keep content that would stay future proof, right? So that it's just an idea. Like I mean, it would be.
Yeah, I mean,
whenever I hear 30-page content, I feel like there's going to be so much details that may not be future proof.
I don't know. I mean, I'm not a book author, but I don't know. Future proof. But you have to get, while you can make it future proof and say, oh, this is going to, and keep the content light, people are potentially paying for this book and they want a good reference.
Yeah, the balance between.
Yeah, it's a balance.
What Richard said about, making it, reference it to current literature. Like once it's published literature, which has a PMID, PMCID and stuff, that's easy, right? That's a permanent artifact. Yeah. But tutorials and other things are dynamic, and we may lose those content. It may get lost in the ether.
It's possible to make persistent DOIs for all of those things by using, like, for example, Zenodo, which is an archive that's maintained by CERN in Europe. So you could do that. I'm not suggesting you could do. I'm just saying that if there's something that you want to decide, that would be there. But I think I know what you're saying. From the R code is moving quickly. Even the vignettes get stale. The cookbook and the book OHDSI right now for things like some certain features that are present in Atlas, some pieces of that are broken, or they're not current with like Hades and how it operates. And so those things do change over time. But what is the big picture from the leadership that's forming the book? Do they want it to be more conceptual, or do they want it to be more like a recipe book that gives you the concepts? It does show you how to do some things, maybe point you to where the code is going to stay more current, giving you the heads up that like this was just a walkthrough at the time this was written, but go check this stuff out because it's moving fast, get involved with the community, that sort of thing. What's the kind of like marching orders, I guess, that the
my interpretation of the marching orders is conceptual ideas of the community, collective ideas of the community, details. This is not a scientific document. This is not a technical document. And if you want more, go somewhere else. Like here's some resources.
I'm not sure. Yeah, I think it's also they left it by each chapter and where the science is in every chapter. Okay.
The idea about the phenotype development, at least, and then it's more of a a philosophy than anything else.
Yeah.
That to go through this process and then and then talk about cohort diagnostics and how it may change your views on certain things and how you use it with all the different parts to it. I mean, it's a philosophy of getting people to understand that you just don't throw together a phenotype.
Yeah.
There's a method to do it, and there's important things to look for. If they change a little bit in the future, so they change a little bit but in the meantime, they'll have gotten an understanding that the phenotype development process is a science.
That's right. So it's a philosophy, right? That is what we are trying to convey, the philosophy of the community, the collective ideas, because those philosophies cannot be put into a journal article, because the journal article requires proof and it requires method section. It's an experiment. But conceptual framework can be written in books.
Yeah.
And that's what this book is trying to do. It's like saying, here's the evolving conceptual ideas of a large community of scientists.
But to go through the different parts of cohort diagnostics and how the checklist that Oz was talking about, I mean that's the philosophy in and of itself. To say you look at incidence rates and you look how they change over time and things like that, and if you see spikes and things like that, this is an issue and this is what you might have to confront. And so if cohort diagnostics changes a little bit or goes away, it's the idea that you should be looking at, when you build a phenotype, you should be looking at the subjects who are included in the phenotype and how they changed over time, and that's an important thing to look for. Or people who are in the phenotype that may not belong there, or people who might be missing in the phenotype. I mean, that's more of a, like I said, it's more of that's more of the philosophy of the science of phenotype development.
Right.
Gautam, can I ask actually a question about that? I think it needs to be a balance. So that's why I'm in my, but I'm used to writing peer review papers. So it's so there's some point where I'm not clear about one thing. So I think we have to go through the technical component, which sometimes covers some details that might go away. Because when you say like you need to have a data-driven approach to know when you make a decision about like excluding something in your definition, what does that mean on the data point? So the whole idea of using the data as a way to assess those choices you make when you build a cohort. That's the concept idea. But you still have to show how does that look like today in OHDSI. So that looks like something like Cohort looks like a tool we have that does all these characterization for you, from granular to like high level to incidence rate to the full set of characterization. Right? That we have to kind of say that this is how it looks like today. It might go out tomorrow. It's fine. But I think we can go through an example as a demonstration of the existing implementation of these ideas and the tools behind them, knowing that might go away. But in the other chapter, Gautam, was there any content that is more of a discussion of like why this matters, or like what does that mean in terms of like remember you brought the idea of like regulatory grade or Like, is there any like discussion components
Yeah.
on the book, or there's no discussions in terms of like
No,
putting that in the context of
no,
our
no,
world?
so yeah, so I'm trying to cut my brain is going on a long-winded answer. I'm trying to cut it, but very very quickly, when the Odyssey community started in 2015, like started taking off 2015, 16, 17, it was all because we have cool technology, cool software, and we can do things faster. But after 2019 and 20, it became we are a methods-oriented community that is a structured way of thinking and so on and so forth. That book came at that transition point, and I think the book was written as a quick read tutorial or conversions of tutorial into chapters. But now we were going into conceptually we think this way, and just the maturity of the community, and that's I think the conflict here.
But and because I'm not involved in other chapters, are people like when people talk about like, but maybe that's not relevant in a book. That's more relevant in publications. Like I'm thinking, okay, after all of this, do we have a discussion section that at least like this is the current status, this is the looking forward, or you can you discuss things by saying the current status of observation of how people do phenotyping in the field is this, and this is how what we're doing, how does it sit in the field? Or you can say at the end of the day, we're generating evidence that needs to be informing decisions. And one way of thinking about it is how the way we do phenotyping is consistent with what decisions makers require on like the whole idea of phenotyping. And then you can take the FDA or the EMA kind of guidance as your backbone and discuss this in that context. Like there's many ways of how you discuss the content, but I feel like I've never heard anybody in their chapter talking about any discussion of the content.
Yeah, I'm following some of the other chapters and other sections. The OMAP CDM is not talking about the details of the CDM at all. Like there's no details about how many tables it has or what the names of those fields are. None of those. It is talking in terms of principles, and I wrote the principles of the CDM section of the book. So it's changing. Like previously, it had all the table structures. It's gone. It's out. The ETL is now conceptual. It's like, you map it for these reasons, and this is the idea behind it. How you want to implement it, go somewhere else and look at it. So I do see a shift in other chapters from the conceptual side.
Okay. Let me go into just some let me see if others if we have any contributors. So if we think of the flow this way, and we're focusing on the development and cohort diagnostics. And then we're gonna leave the evaluation as like quantification of the measurement error to the quality section. So outside this chapter. My question for people who are here is anybody interested in writing part of the at least of the like mechanical component. So when we talk about like there are people who led Gautam, I know on your side, who led like the literature review in terms of like phenotypes or the clinical description. Is there any candidate who would like to like own just the first draft of like maybe even an example? Like imagine this is a tutorial. Anybody who would be interested in writing those components? Not you, I know you. Okay. Anybody would like to write the part of how you build a concept set with the string and the how you pick from vocabulary? Or even like don't think about it like just like it could be like writing the example you guys once did, like just want to write it in words in a book, just the way you do a tutorial. Just want to make sure nobody is interested. If anybody interested,
I'm happy to help with that a little bit if there's a need.
okay.
Yeah.
The concept set.
Anybody beating Richard? Any other hands? Is there number 23? Number 23's got it.
My thing is not going to my. Okay.
Was it the next one? Was it B?
Yeah,
actually?
it's the next one.
Yeah.
It's just.
I think the clinical descriptions, because I'm not a clinician, I don't really want to touch that. I'm always working with clinicians and helping them operationalize, but I'm not going to do A, but I could probably handle B a bit. So
Yeah,
with some help.
The new mouse you gave me really doesn't want to go there, so.
Yeah, as I started this morning with her keyboard and mouse not working, so I had a spare one, but it is a gaming mouse and a gaming keyboard with all
It's
those
awful.
funky lights.
It's awful.
Which was unboxed and was somewhere there, and I gave it to her, and it's got these clunky mechanical buttons.
Joel, look at this. Look at this mouse that Gautam gave me this morning. It has a dragon on it.
Fun.
Okay. Anybody would like to? Actually, Joel, what's the example you did for Fee Evaluator?
I'm using myocardial infarction mostly.
Oh, the easy one. Okay.
Yeah.
Does it make sense for us to take myocardial infarction from start to finish as the exemplar?
We did something for Phenotype February, right? So we
Yeah,
have
yeah,
content.
Yeah, we have all the artifact. Yep. Jackie says yes. Jacqueline says yes. Okay, let's do online. Okay, we'll do that. We'll do MI. Okay. Anybody would like to just be editor, meaning that we'll produce the content and they just like read it. Yay, okay. So we got Jackie. I'm gonna write, okay. We have very crazy times lined. Like Jackie, I have to write all your name.
Yeah.
Got it. Any other reviewers would like to edit, would like to critique us and say that sounds very not clear? Okay. Well, depend on Jackie to fix all our mistakes.
Yeah.
Don't worry, it's all gonna go through Gen AI in terms of like editing, but okay, so we take MI as a story. We go from start to finish. I'll have the introduction. In the introduction, I'll reference all the Phenotype February, all the things that were done. I will reference the working group.
Yeah. As remember the 4-block conceptual framework,
Yes.
a tool-enabled workflow.
Yeah.
I think anchoring on that idea and working myocardial infarction is the way to go. Like what it is, how is it done, and what's the enablers? Like and the enablers are Atlas Core Diagnostics, Fee Evaluator, so on.
Yeah. Yes, that's what I'm thinking as framing in the intro, and then we take that process thing that we did, that we developed now a few years ago, and because that doesn't change, like that's the concept that the principle of these inputs.
The fundamental idea, I think, just one soapbox. A lot of people are in the real world evidence space, but what this community has started ascribing to is the idea of trust. Whatever evidence is generated by the community is trustable, and that is essentially becomes usable for decision-making purposes, because there is a lot of players out there where you can generate evidence and there's a lot of question marks that comes with it. So we are also doing it as a reproducible. So that's the motivation behind this. Like that's the idea. So we have to write in such a way that if you follow this framework, your output is trusted.
Which takes, yeah, that's right. So that's what I meant by discussion. Like but that's maybe not for the book, or maybe that's what Christian Reich refers to as the first chapter, which talks about how all of this is in a context of something. So it could be, trust, whatever.
Yeah. So yeah.
Gautam, I just remembered that we have phenotype curation, which is the library, which you will author 100%. You already wrote it down. Sorry, I know it. You did that part.
You typed it just now.
I completely forgot the library. Joel, we have in the existing chapter, there was section about other approaches for phenotyping, which includes the work on probabilistic phenotyping.
Yeah.
Just because you're the closest to that content exists. Do you mind if you can just look at it and we can take it as is? I don't want to just like.
I mean, it probably hasn't changed since the last.
No, I don't think it changed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, have you talked with Juan?
Do you want us, Gautam, maybe to reach out for Juan before we have? What do you think we should do?
I'll text him.
Yeah.
Yeah. Joe, I'll follow up with you on maybe on out. I'm thinking in the conceptual framework, we need to put measurement errors as an idea because it's part of the trust. But without going into the details, and your chapter will have details of the tools, like the fee evaluator.
So you reference
exactly
in the later chapter. We'll be talking about the blah blah blah.
Yeah. So the conceptual ideas will be here, but the details of the implementation using one method, which is fee evaluator, current best method, will be in a separate chapter.
Yeah.
So we'll just do that flow.
I mean, so you'll talk about conceptually at the end of the day, the phenotype you developed will have performance characteristics for sensitivity and specificity, which are required to be able to know whether your phenotype is of value.
Keeper is another way of whether doing it. Chart review is another way of doing it. All of those will come under the methods in the quality section. But the conceptual idea is the same. You need to do it. If you don't do it, then there's no trust.
Yeah. We're gonna think. So I'm gonna do it in the intro as this section is about taking a clinical idea from a clinical idea to a object that is a cohort and we'll talk about this. But then you'll end up with that, knowing that this still has some measurement other characteristics or as a classifier that can have some performance, and you still need to understand that, and that will be covered in the quality or the validity section chapter. So Gautam will link all these concepts together. Okay, so as I know Andrew is waiting for us to talk about their phenotype, but for next steps, I'll start writing all the intro and everything. Richard, I will tag you on the concept set building section, and I'll give you all the material if you want to use anything we already have. But we're going to use MI as the exemplar, and I will start with it for its inputs. I'll talk about literature review, and I'll talk about the what the clinical description might look like. Joel and Gautam, I might ping you if either of you has put the prompt for what we generate in the public, so we can reference that, or is it still like not actually anywhere in the public as an example?
For clinical description,
yeah.
Those things, they're never static. Like every 3 days.
Okay.
Joel, I have a Python package that has it's a prompt library now. I'll share with you. It's on OHDSI GitHub. So I just look for LLM prompts. We can just put it there.
Yeah, and it doesn't matter. You're right. No, actually, there's no point. That's something that definitely changed, so we don't have to reference that. Okay, and then Jackie, I will also ping you, I will tag you, so you can go through things as they get ready as a reviewer for us.
Sounds great. Thanks, Aza.
Perfect. And Jackie and Richard will be authors. And then, of course, Joel and Gautam and myself. And then, of course, the Darwin, and I'll connect with David because he also was in the previous one. If anybody, this is going to be done in the next 2 weeks. If anybody is have cycles or time to be a reviewer or to own any of these content, that is because we have an example. So there will be like a very simple kind of a tutorial-like content, which is like, it's basically screenshot from Atlas that anybody can do. So if anybody feel like they want to contribute, they can, and they can be authors. Just ping me separately if you want to think about it. Okay. Let's go to Andrew. Bye, Gautam.
Morning.
Good morning.
Yeah, thank you for giving me time. I know it's kind of last minute.
Okay. Man, now you have 7 definitions.
Yeah, so there were 3 more created, or one last one is just one of the concepts that's standing alone, and then 2 of them are based on they wanted to see the kind of similar fashion that we did before, isolating a new concept set with like acyclovir and steroid treatments. So it's a little bit more like a sensitive phenotype. So if you wanted to also check that as well. I know it's a lot, so I understand if you're busy.
No, it's okay. So basically there are 7 definitions right now, and
Mhm.
you guys expect all 7 to produce numbers, right? To capture patients?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Okay, so let me, and you have the links.
Yeah, and if you want to do it just like as last time, like
Yeah,
I know
I can do it offline. But basically, those are the 7. You make sure that each of them link to the right JSON. I'll take the JSON and I will run them, and I'll confirm. I'll send you the table of the counts.
Yeah, or I mean, if you have time now, you can do it here, and because versus you having to send me the table, I can just screenshot the table. It's up to you, whatever's easiest.
Yeah. Okay. Hold on. Okay, everybody, you can all leave. We are now doing just running 7 definitions for Andrew.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Sounds very silly, but yeah. So whatever's easier for you. So if you want to do offline,
Yeah,
or
no, you can stay. It's okay.
Okay.
You can stay. So we're looking at final HSV anterior uveitis. That's the first one. Is there a hierarchy of like kind of what you expect to have the highest number of
Yeah,
people to the lowest
I
number of
mean,
people?
it'll be pretty similar to what we got before. So the final one will obviously have the most because it has all of the
Yeah.
like it's all together. But I think the next one would be keratitis, PCR, then iris atrophy would be the least. But it's just because I think we added some or there were some things that should have been excluded in some of the concept sets. So we just want to see if that affected any of the numbers at all.
Got it. Okay, stay with me. I'm not sharing my screen and showing you what I'm doing only because my atlas becomes very, very slow once I share.
Yeah, no worries.
Because
Whenever
I'm gonna click.
yeah. I mean, I can just screenshot.
And I'm going through like, yeah. I don't know why with the new teams, my atlas just, like even now, because I'm in the call, it's just so slow. And that's just the internal atlas.
No worries.
The extended one is fine, but yeah, it's still rotating to open. Okay. I'm gonna stop the recording. Oh, I can't. No, because Joe left, probably it stopped recording.
Uh-oh.
Which is good. We don't, it's fine. We don't need it. Okay. So this one is the final. Never call anything final, Andrew. You,
I know it's my biggest mistake.
it's never final. Oh
Yeah.
man, I do have another meeting.
No
Okay,
worries.
let me do that offline. I will send you the report. I am working on it, but
Yeah.
I need to be on that other meeting.
Yeah, no worries. And if it's easier, because I know taking the screenshots and it's a lot, like I can just meet with you another time too, or you can do offline, whatever. I just want to make it easiest for you as possible. So
Yeah, no, I can, no, I can take the screenshot. Don't worry about it. It's just 7. No problem. Okay.
awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank
Have
you.
a wonderful
You're welcome.
day.
Bye. Bye.